Hello, Joyeux Noel, Feliz Navidad, Merry belated Christmas from us here at the Dripping Hartnell Podcast, which is the podcast you're listening to right now. I am your host for this episode, Connor J. Sumner, and today I am joined by Abby Louise. Hello. Jimmy Wolfe.
Hello.
And Connor Chadwick.
Hello.
And you've already broken Abby.
No Aiden today, which means Jimmy, sir, you're getting your numbers up, mate.
I am slowly catching the man up.
Yeah, there's a current race to who can be the most who has appeared in the most podcast, and it's currently a race between Jimmy and Aiden. But anyway, today on this festive episode, we are a festive episode recorded closer to New Year's than Christmas, really. But we're gonna be talking about the Christmas special, the recent Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road, which was the debut for Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. Featured lots of goblins, which were great, and it was the first full episode for Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. Now, I could go on continuing sucking the dicks of Ncuti and Russell, but I will refrain for now.
What?
To let everyone else go first. Go first! Don't linger on it. Just move on.
No, you've thrown us off now. Right. I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. I know that seems an understatement, but if there's something that I have to really, the immediate thing that I have to immediately give I think a thumbs up to was the song. Obviously was wonderful, but I loved Ncuti and Millie's additions to it, because I have to say there's one thing that I genuinely never want to see, and I'm probably we'll end up seeing it at some point. I do not want a musical episode of Doctor Who. I can't think of anything I want less, and that's very much just me. I appreciate that. I know I'm a very unpopular opinion. There's lots of people out there, and I would have no issues with them doing one if they did, but I just don't think it would work. It's like Scrubs did one, and it kind of worked because it was a woman who'd hit her head, and then she hears everyone singing. There was a reason for it, but I can't think of a really good reason for there to be a musical episode of Doctor Who. That all being said, I loved the little bit of the song and dance we got in this one. I thought it was absolutely superb, and it was one of those moments where I looked at it and I thought, do you know what? I might be okay with this. And I really just have to give that full props to begin with, because it was one of those standout moments from the episode where it was kind of like, yeah, sometimes us fans get it wrong, and maybe we actually do want stuff like that.
I will admit, I said this on call last night, that I had specifically Ncuti and Millie's bit playing over and over again in my head at work. I was like stocking shelves and serving people at the till, and all the time in my head was going, me and Bruce, we got just one hope, if I have understood that, bro. I loved it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
See, I'm quite similar to Jimmy regarding musicals. I'm not much of a musical person, and I like to think that with regards to how the goblins communicate, because they're kind of a fantastical kind of concept anyway for goblins, that maybe that's the way they communicate, because that's the only time they ever speak. Or in any way communicate. So I like to think it's a communication kind of tool And considering that we're seemingly leaning into more of the superstition, gods and monsters sort of thing, I think that's what Russell actually called it, gods and monsters.
Yeah.
That's like a kind of communication element that was used, because I'm in a similar boat. I'm not 100% on board with musicals either, and admittedly, during the watch of it, I was cringing a little bit whilst everyone was singing. But upon reflection, if I just sort of think of it as that's how they communicate, I'm absolutely fine with it. Because it kind of like, that's the whole thing, is that it's the superstition element they're leading into. It doesn't necessarily imply or comply to physics anyway. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it, is that they communicate by a tune, if you want to look at it that way. But I really enjoyed the episode overall. I have got some like critiques, but like it's nothing like that stops my enjoyment of the episode. It's more of the case of I'm not a massive fan of the way they filmed it. And it's something I mentioned to Abby at the time, which was you can see the camera wobbles on the crane and stuff. Like when they pan away from Ruby looking at the TARDIS, they pan through the whole box. You can see it rocking back and forth on the crane. Or like when you look at the shot above the TARDIS, when you're looking, as it starts to turn, it rocks again, like they've just clicked an unlock on the jib and turned it. And I'm like, these are things that could have been tweaked. It's, did no one notice it at the time? And then I look back on what the director had done before, Mark Tonderai, I believe.
Tonderai, yeah.
And I look back, and Rosa has it as well. He directed Rosa, by the way.
Yeah.
But that has some of it as well. And I don't know if it's something that's just as a technical issue or not. But it was just something for me that, I studied film, I see these things. I just sort of kept seeing the camera wobbles a bit, and it just annoyed me. But I really enjoyed it. It was really light-hearted for Christmas. And it was nice to have the Christmas special back and to feel nice and Christmassy, and you can kind of let go of like all the stuff you kind of look into for Who and stuff for Christmas especially. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really nice to see like Millie and Shooty finally together after about a year. Isn't it a year and a half now we've had a hype?
Something like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And wasn't it only in like the last, I want to say not couple of months, more than that, like 6 months, that scene on the street with the snowman falling was actually shot? Everyone thought that was for the next Christmas special, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's a reshoot, wasn't it?
I was going to say that was a pickup
a
shot, wasn't it? Because Disney wanted him to appear earlier or something. I read.
Which makes sense.
I think it was Disney had like a test screening, and all the people that they screened it to were like, "We want to see him come in earlier."
Right.
So they were like, "Can you just shoot a thing where it's?"
Yeah, because he was in it, but it was very much like, and I like it for this reason. It was treating it like we were going back to, because it was technically the new series 1. It was almost like doing Rose again. But I liked it, but I can also understand that from the perspective of when you look at Rose in comparison to this episode. With Rose, the Doctor hadn't been seen for 16 years on TV, so introducing them via the companion was easier. Whereas here, we're 2 weeks off of the specials.
Exactly.
Like, we've just been introduced. It's not been 16 years. It's been half a month, and we need to see this new Doctor as well. So having those nice quick scenes that we did see, like at the bar, and then the other one at the nightclub, was really good. But ultimately, seeing them still being separate whilst having their moments close by to one another was really, really nice. And it's like I was saying, that scene with him talking to the police officer in that reshot scene, which I kind of thought was weird, which is what I said this, again, another thing I've said to Abby, which is he shot that scene after finishing an entire series as 15. What we're seeing there is actually him having refined the performance before the rest of the footage.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Because that scene sold me as the Doctor, from like when he's like, when just his interactions by himself, not just talking to the police officer. Because every time we've seen him, he's always had a very kind of positive, outgoing nature, like smiling, gleaming, running around. Whereas here, he was just kind of very stoic on the street watching. And he was very concentrated. And you look at him and you can see the million thoughts a minute in his mind as he's just walking and using the sonic and everything like that. It was just really, really nice, and I really enjoyed that part.
But I also like how in the scene before you have also got him. It's like, I suppose he's not like he's not thinking, he's not got those million thoughts a second thing, but you've got him, dancing, and he's just completely in the moment in that scene. But then, he's still got his eyes peeled, and he's there once the glass falls to catch it. And I mean, yeah, it's that scene where he's talking to the policeman where I'm just watching it and be like, this man is the Doctor. Like, come on. How can you not love this performance?
It's just occurred to me as well. There's a couple of good callbacks actually to Russell's first era, because obviously him moving to catch the glass is that classic thing of in End of the World, where he has that moment where he steps between the fan, which shows he can move really quickly when he wants to. I love that. But also it's just occurred to me as well when Chad has mentioned about about the opening bit of Rose where that was filmed, is technically the bit where Rose is on the street and she runs past the TARDIS after he blows up. It's basically literally just round the corner from where they filmed the snowman bit. It's quite a pleasing.
No, it's the same building.
It's the same building. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's the building that blows up in Rose. Is where the snowman is.
It's the old House of Fraser building. It's just quite pleasing that there's a nice little bit of symmetry to that.
Yeah, I was. I was just like, I was there earlier this year. We went to the Cardiff trip. No, but it was nice. It was like there was a lot of references there to kind of, because I like it when they do those sort of things, like the old and new and everything like that. I can't believe I've just called Rose the old. But that was when I was 10. But like,
yeah, all right, rub it in.
Yeah, but like no, like it's just nice to see the little references, like paying little homages like that to certain locations. Yeah, you got your little ventilation shafts again on the ship. It's like lots of nice references to the show that I feel like existing fans can enjoy, whilst also introducing something new to newer viewers. I thought it was really, really
nice. I did like the fact that they got a TV show within a TV show.
Yeah,
that kind of made me giggle.
Yes.
The whole having Davina on to host a show she literally hosts on a completely separate channel.
But I love what Russell said about that as well. The fact that, yes, it is an existing show, but he wanted to highlight it to international audiences as well. And I think that's what I quite like about Russell.
But also, he killed off Davina McCall.
Well,
did he?
Did he?
Well, he did originally.
On the other end of that cut, you've got the 15th Doctor holding up that Christmas tree.
I have seen an edit.
The second time round, yes. The first time round, we could have had some very gory image of Davina McCall with a star embedded in her skull.
I'm sure.
I like Davina McCall, but even that is
Merry Christmas, everyone.
I'm sure if we took that soundbite of that cool minute, we could give it to Chelsea and she'll put in a nice squelchy sound at the end of the phone.
Yeah.
But again, we never saw 15 pull the Christmas tree up. He could have just thrown it back.
Let it go. Merry Christmas, Davina McCall.
Merry Christmas.
No, but he didn't say
Squish.
He just
I'll
said,
say this as well.
Merry Christmas.
I'll say this as well, though. Who rings someone Christmas Eve on their birthday to tell them?
Right.
Sorry, we couldn't make contact with your parents.
Yeah, not good timing. And then she's, but it's there to serve the plot.
Yeah,
because it gets mentioned in front, and this is what I was going to lead into. But this is where we end up being mediated quite heavily by the leader herself, because we're going to get into in-depth territory here. Because I've made it no secret that I'm a fan of the Timeless Child. So I like the way that they're using the Timeless Child as kind of like the new mystery time war, like they did with Rose, for example, in the original series. Well, I say the original series one in RTD1 series, and they're using the Timeless Child as kind of like still a mystery element in order to connect with the companion.
And it was subtle as well. It was subtle. I liked that about that. They didn't make a whole song and dance about it, because I think that's what a lot of people were expecting. A lot of people saying, "Oh, he's going to rewrite it completely, or he's going to reference it but they didn't. They literally just made it a really simple thing. And I really loved the fact that it's very Doctor-like as well. The fact that, after everything he's been through, we've had, the 14th Doctor's done his rehab. He's become the 15th Doctor or whatever, however that happens. But I love the fact that it's still one of those things that it shows that even after everything he's been through and undergone all that rehab, he's still not completely okay with it.
Yeah.
And I love that. But I
good.
love that message, because it says, it's one of those wonderful things that Russell does so well, where he says, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. Well, there are certain things, like, it's like when I saw a couple of criticisms that, oh yeah, I thought he was going to be happy now. Like, I thought he'd gone and healed himself. It's like, this stuff doesn't go away.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Exactly.
You heal yourself by working out ways to deal with this and move forward. But the main thing I was going to talk about, the Timeless Child, isn't even something that I mean, obviously that was a reference, but when the timeline cracks and he looks at the fridge and all those children are gone, somebody made an edit on Twitter, which I adore, where when Carla is talking about the children, I go, what? I could never have them. Yeah, blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. It intercuts with the sequence from the Timeless Children of all the different people that the Doctor was and can't remember, because they're gone.
That's good.
And it was a really good metaphor, and that's why he feels so deeply, which is why when Carla talks about the monetary value of taking in the children, he goes, don't say it like that.
Don't say
that. Because Tecteun was looking at the monetary value of him with regeneration.
Yeah, that's really good. I'd never thought of that.
And there's a really nice allegory there, which is why he reacts so specifically about it, because Ruby is an allegory for the Timeless Child.
Exactly.
Moment.
It could have been. It would have been so easy for them to either in that moment where he's like, "I've got no one," or when he mentions I'm adopted. It could have been so easy for them to have that and then go, but no, they just glossed over it, and that's what I like about it. It's like, he's like, yeah, it's still there, but let's not dwell on that. We've got more pressing matters at hand.
But honestly, I've got to show you that edit later. It was amazing. It was just the intercutting of the sequences and how Carla in that moment is Tecteun in a way, because of how she's reacting so emotionlessly, going, "Yeah, I could never do this. I could never do that.
Too much like hard work."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was just really, like, when I looked at that, it was like, well, it's annoying that Russell's doing that with the Timeless Child, and we never got to see that in the era itself. But
so one thing I want to bring up is the Goblin King puppet.
Oh,
yes,
that was absolutely. You know me, I'm a sucker for a practical effect, and that was just absolutely fantastic. Gorgeous. If you'd done that in CG, it doesn't matter how good it would have looked. You could have told it. You would know it was CG. The fact that it was a practical effect is just chef's kiss.
But they've got 5 dudes cramped into this massive puppet.
So
I loved it.
I kind of love the fact that Doctor Who, because most shows, let's face it, most shows just do everything in CGI nowadays. And it's so nice that Doctor Who is kind of keeping to those practical effects.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've got a lot of faith immediately in the Russell's new era, because obviously I wasn't here for this podcast, but one of the Wild Blue Yonder one, I loved how many of the effects were done practically and just using such simple methods as well. So if this is the way that Russell's going ahead with his era, I've got nothing against there being CG. Don't get me wrong. It's, there are some things that they can only do in CG, but when you can tell that. You look at something like that, you look at like the Goblin King and the puppeteering that's gone into that, you look at think that's where Disney's money's going, and it is being well spent.
That's what I was just about to say. It's like they've got this budget increase from Disney. They could have easily poured that money into better CGI, but no, they've poured it into better practical effects.
Yes. And rightly so.
I love how they did the goblins as well, because obviously they weren't there for that scene.
Yeah.
Been digitally inserted in afterwards, but they just got a load of smaller actresses and actors in on a green screen and then shrunk them down even smaller. But obviously they've done the whole copy paste thing. But even their like the makeup on them and like
It's
the
fantastic.
masks on them, it's uncanny. And in Unleashed, they done an interview with one of the goblins, who was the woman who was the second lot of Poe in Teletubbies.
Yeah.
So Poe is now a goblin. Character development.
It's like Gremlins. If you get
it's like
if
Gremlins.
you get Poe wet.
No, but it's just even the guy who was doing the interviews, he was like, it's really weird because you just look like a goblin.
Yeah. I am talking to a goblin. My brain is saying I am talking to a goblin in this moment.
You're saying about the whole communication thing as well. Earlier on. I mean, the only other noise they seem to do is hiss, because the one thing that did make me giggle was when they first took the baby and one of them hissed at Ruby and she went, did you just hiss at me?
I will say, just on the subject of the goblins, I'm going to say something now, and every time you watch this episode, you will never be able to unsee it. There's a bit when they first pop up into the ship, and the Doctor goes, "Oh yeah," like that. There's a goblin stood slightly to the left of the screen in like a shirt, braces, and a flat cap. And the minute I saw that, and I was like, "Sticker goblin." And I can't. Every time I watch that scene now, that's the only thing I can see. Is sticker as a. I literally just like it's the sticker goblin.
You need to digitally insert just Chelsea going, all right.
Just jumping up in the back, going, all right.
Jump is like really quiet. She jumps up and then goes back down again.
But going back to what we were saying about the goblins, just the sheer just variety they managed to squeeze into that. You know, like you said, they could have copied. You know, they did do a copy paste, but even then, they just really sort of made them look all unique. And again, it shows how much attention to detail they're putting into things, because it's so. It's one of those ones I've rewatched it twice now. And every time I've watched it so far, I've noticed some really tiny, minuscule detail, but there's something in it that I thought, I didn't notice that the first time. And it's nothing that's really important, but you just look at it and you can see you didn't need to put that detail in there, but you did. And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Because I've seen a lot of discussion about this on Twitter. What are your thoughts about 15 when he goes back to 2004, which makes me unwell to think of as being years ago? But
well, I mean, it's not that bad for me, considering that was 6 months before I'd even been born.
What are your thoughts on 15 not going to find out who Ruby's real mother?
I think that was the right call, because I look at it and think, like, I'm very much like, he could have, but that is, first of all, that is not his decision to find that out, and he understands that. Exactly. If he had gone and found it out, it would not be his decision to tell Ruby. And I sort of look at it and think, like, it really sums up, it really builds on his character, because you look at it and think, like, the 10th Doctor would have run in there, gone and found out who that person was, and then he would have gone and found out who that was, gone back, told Ruby, and then would have taken Ruby there to try and convince the person, and he would have just meddled in it completely. And I love the fact that that's sort of what the 14th Doctor probably would have done as well, because they're the same sort of personality. So when I watched that, I really love the fact that you could see him and he stood there and he's crying, and you look at it and think, like, he wants more than anything else in that moment to go and find out who that is, because he needs to know. He doesn't need to know for Ruby. He needs to know. It's a mystery and he wants to solve it, and he knows that he can't, because that's the right thing to do. So it's that great inner sort of turmoil for him, that he's suddenly got a mystery that he could make Ruby so happy by telling her, but he knows that is not his job to go and do that. It's Ruby has to say to him, I want you to go and find that out. He doesn't get to make that decision. And I love it. I think it's just so heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time.
I saw it as because again, it seems like all I'm doing is talking about the Timeless Child, but it's what everyone keeps talking about, because in terms of this being an allegory for Ruby's journey of discovery, matching the Doctor's. I saw people saying that it was the Doctor's decision not to find out who they were with the timeless child. So who, in this scene, who is he to go and find out and step over, well, move past Ruby, step over Ruby's opportunity and go and find out and go and tell her, hey, I went and did this. He sort of, a lot of people saw it as that was him respecting the fact that Ruby needs to find out, not him.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting because there's a lot. I like the kind of parallels that the Doctor and Ruby have in their story, and that they're both trying to find out in a way, maybe not actively, but in their hearts, they want to know where they're from.
Yeah,
and
it would be
connect them.
It would be a great thing to see because I mean, given the fact that the scale of the TARDIS set, I'm hoping that we will actually get to see more of the TARDIS because you can't have an area that big and not have more interior TARDIS scenes.
In some of the photos, there's a door open in the background.
That's what I mean. So I'm hoping that they'll get, but I would love it if we got a scene where perhaps it's just a throwaway scene. Ruby's exploring the TARDIS and she finds the watch, hears like a whispering, and then thinks, no, that's not I'm not going to pry into that. Because I like the fact that you'd have that sort of parallel between. I doubt it's going to happen, but it would just be a nice parallel to have.
Yeah.
Because you look at it and think the Doctor hasn't pried into Ruby's past. She's not going to pry into his.
Yeah. Also, you gave me an idea for a scene where it's in another part of the TARDIS. TARDIS lands. It's the Abbey Road episode. He goes, come on, and they rush off to the wardrobe, and he just throws clothes at her, going, come on, get dressed. He's like, where are we going? I'll just put this on or whatever. And then it cuts them walking down the corridor like you see in the trailer with them dressed up. I can imagine something like that, because they're already if they're gonna have like that kind of gossipy sister, gossipy sisters thing. I can imagine them both running in to the wardrobe, going, yeah, you go, put this on, here you go, and then they're going, and all that sort of play, a sort of very nice playful relationship. That's how I kind of
very good.
If there was going to be a scene outside of the TARDIS. Also, quick question: is this Christmas special classed as episode 1?
I don't know, because a lot of things have been saying it's special 4.
Because there's in total they order 9 episodes, an 8-episode run with a special. Now, this is classed as series 1/14 on, well, for us. On Disney Plus, it's called Special 4.
Yeah.
But Russell had indicated a while ago that Disney Plus had asked for a major change on episode 14.1. And then he said that the Christmas special would change to that extra scene. Was that change? So that means this is episode 14.1.
Oh,
which
right.
is part of the series 14 or series 1 filming block. But then it's not the first episode of the series, is it? Because it's not called episode 1. It's the Christmas special.
Yeah, I would say it's not. I would say it's this. I would call it the 4th 60th special because it's aired in the 60th year. It's continuing on from the 60th specials, and whilst it is leading into the next series, as with other previous Christmas specials, it is not necessarily part of it. That's my thinking, anyway.
Yeah.
I like the fact as well that Russell's very open about the production process. Like he said that Disney always tests the first episode, but then they're not testing every episode.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people worried about how much interference that Disney was going to have. So in essence, they're testing the first episode of every series.
Okay.
I assume there's someone still from Disney Plus watching to make sure it fits in with the guidelines.
I would assume so.
Like that's just how it is. Even the BBC does that for themselves. That's why you've got Ofcom regulations and all this sort of stuff. But no, I like the fact that Russell's very open about the process, and the video commentary has been really good for that as well, for talking about when things are shot. Like he said in the video commentary for this episode, that episode 8, the finale of the series, is just about to have its ADR done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I imagine in that case that they must be close to finishing it. But it's nice to see the process, and they're basically near the end of the series now, but also how long it's taken them to get this whole process together. So you can only imagine how much is going to be packed into the series. And that's what I really enjoyed about the trailer for the 60th anniversary specials, which is that they showed you so much, but you really did not know the big picture.
Mm.
And it's going on from that. I feel like that's the same kind of vibe I got from the coming series trailer. As we've seen, that trailer showed us a lot. It showed us where they were going, who they were meeting, what was going on, but we got very little plot detail, and I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the biggest thing we got in that trailer was they're gonna see the Beatles at Abbey Road.
No,
we got no idea what that
view.
episode's gonna happen.
We got full view of John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming George Martin in the booth.
I would assume so, yes.
Or it could, I don't know, it could be Glyn Johns, whatever. It could be could be anyone.
Because the fan theory going around about that is the whole replacement of the Beatle thing. The whole.
Oh, that would be good. Paul is dead.
They're saying that
the
Paul was
Paul
the
is dead
Zygon
thing.
and he gets replaced.
Oh, I would love that.
That's the fan theory.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna.
I was gonna say, I imagine
that
Dan
would
would
be
be very
so
happy.
good.
That's a fan theory.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, but poor old sweet Daniel, who made a short trip a couple of years ago, called Bygones on Abbey Road.
I mean, we've got Dom not happy because the TARDIS interior is purple. And then, we've got Zygon. He's happy, but he's like, "Oh, come on, let me get my series out first." And then, but then we've got potentially Zygons in Abbey Road.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They watch the fan stuff. They watch the fan stuff. They note it down. There is no way we can stop them doing that. And full on them, because sometimes we come up with better ideas than they do. So coming soon, the Chelsea wagon toy maker.
Free advertisement. We'll just go. Oh, speaking of which, this episode we made this a few years ago.
Yes, we all do that. we pull a big finish. It's like as soon as the Davros stuff came out, Big Finish were like, look at our Davros stuff.
Yeah,
but I suppose also it's almost like with what Chibnall did with Mary Shelley, and Big Finish were like,
yeah.
Big Finish is a little bit different because they are licensed, and it's like, we're the show. Oh no, you've destroyed.
There is one person that we should mention and we haven't talked about yet. Some of you may know this. Mrs. Flood.
I was literally just about to mention Mrs.
Flood.
You mean the Rani?
Or is it the Master?
No.
Or the toy maker? Or is it Ruby herself?
Sorry, no, I meant the Master.
Clue has to be in her name.
I think there has to be in her name. That's what I'm going with.
Clue has to be in her name.
Russell is that subtle and yet that over the top as well that it has to be in her name.
See,
my problem is when you think of the Flood, obviously you think of the Flood.
Yes.
He's a Cyberman.
Or that.
And I'm sorry to say it and I know it's Stephen Moffat era, and I really don't want it to some way be connected at all. It's the whole river.
Yes.
No,
I know. No, that's occurred to me as well. That
I don't want that to be the case. No. But that is the only place my brain is leading me to.
Real name is Rhythm Flood.
The thing is, because obviously Russell has obviously taken the timeless child thing from Chris. I feel like he will steal something from Stephen.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a theory actually about half an hour before we start recording this, because everyone's going, "Oh, must be older Ruby, must be."
See, I like that theory.
I think it's Ruby's mother.
Maybe.
Here's
I mean, it would make a lot of sense.
She says, "Have you never seen a TARDIS before?" And literally 2 scenes before that, the Doctor's landed in front of her.
But
she's surprised as well.
But this is the thing, so I feel like the Mrs. Flood we see at the beginning is different to the Mrs. Flood we see at the end.
Right.
Because the Mrs. Flood at the beginning is like, what the bloody hell is that blue box doing here?
And then she sees it materialise, drops her bags.
And then the Mrs. Flood at the end is like, what's the matter? Haven't you seen a TARDIS before? Not the TARDIS.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also think it's worth noting it can't be, the reason I say it can't be older Ruby, and I watched this again earlier, it's because when Ruby is erased from existence,
Mrs. Flood is still there.
Still there.
You bastard! I was going to say that.
She's still there, and she
Yeah, it can't be older Ruby.
dematerializing. I do agree that there's something there, but a part of me thinks it's also all just a ruse that she's playing.
I'll tell you the one that's convinced me the most, and it's a really simple theory. Like, it's a one sentence simple theory, but it makes more sense. The fact that she didn't know what the TARDIS was, she was surprised when it dematerialized, and then she suddenly knows. I think in the interim period, because I don't know if it's actually really necessarily given, I think that she's something to do with UNIT, or at least UNIT has recruited her. It filled her in on the Doctor, and that's why she's there. She's sat there waiting, looking for the Doctor to let UNIT know when he's turned up.
But wasn't it you who was saying about the whole woman in the chair waiting?
Well, that was my initial theory. It's that she's waiting for him, the one who waits. And I don't recall.
means the one person that the toy maker wouldn't play a game against is this random
old lady, Mrs. Flood.
Yeah.
Won't
this random Albidi.
But that's what makes me think that maybe she is someone else. It's possible. I mean, I look at it. The other one that came up to me is the one who waits, and I don't know how you would fit this together, given we've seen her die. Is that it could be Tecteun again, which it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't seem to work, but I can see where they're coming from. It's like I've seen other people say, "Oh, she's the one that picks up the ring," and it's like, pretty sure she's not wearing red nail polish.
Yeah. So the other fan theory is that she's Susan. That's another one that's been.
Here's my thing about the one who waits thing.
I personally,
he doesn't say. Oh, okay.
I personally,
I won't say my thing now.
Let Chadwick go first, and then you go afterwards, my darling.
Oh, right. Okay.
I just feel like it is Ruby's mother. I feel like Russell's done that for us to really look in depth. I reckon.
And Sumner.
No, sorry. I was just going to say about it's about the whole one who waits thing. Everyone's saying it's like, oh, it's a person, but are we forgetting that the toy maker says, "I saw it hiding," not them, not her, not them.
I'm edging more towards Connor's theory, though. If I'm honest, the whole mum. I'm edging more towards the whole Ruby's mum theory.
Oh yeah, that's why I don't think. Oh yeah, Mrs. Flood is the one who waits, because he said it.
Yeah, I reckon the one who waits is more of a celestial being.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking. So let's assume it is Ruby's mother. The reason perhaps she knows of the TARDIS is because she saw it when she initially left Ruby. That would make it that sense. And also, I'm just thinking as well is maybe the reason that she's watching and waiting for the TARDIS to return is if there's going to be another kind of, like the Master did with Martha's mum, somebody is convinced her that the Doctor is not a nice person. And so she's suddenly, if it is her mother, taking an interest in looking after Ruby, and she's changed her tune, which is why she's now living next door to her to keep an eye on her, knowing that the Doctor is going to turn up to find Ruby. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I feel when you look at the photos of Ruby's mother and you only see the bottom of her face, looks like a young Mrs. Flood to me.
See, I think it looks like Ruby.
I mean,
exactly.
I still can't get past the fact that I think it does look like the 13th Doctor. It's clearly not her. It is
just because she's got boots on.
Boots and
a woman.
I know, right?
To me, I don't know. I'm pretty certain at the moment, until I hear otherwise, that it's Ruby's mother.
You know for a fact, we're not going to have any theories answered until the end of season 1.
Of course not. I feel like it is probably more likely her mother, just purely because I think that's a classic Russell move. He wants to make you think it is everybody but the really obvious person that it could be.
Yeah.
It's clearly, obviously, likely her mother. Therefore, Russell thinks, no, it couldn't possibly be her mother at all. Well, it actually is.
Imagine if, and if people really get up in arms about the whole knowing what a TARDIS is, what if they did a Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith with it?
That's true.
In the finale,
I don't know what that is.
All right, so in Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith, the trickster tempts Sarah Jane to go back and save her parents because both of her parents died mysteriously in a car crash and just left Sarah Jane behind. And she never knew why her parents left her behind. But the Sarah Jane is actually the one who sends them off in the first place because she's tempted by the trickster and changes time. Trickster becomes whole, destroys the present. She has to go back and make sure they get back in that car again. But in doing so, she has to make them get in the car and she has to explain who she is, everything like that. So I'm thinking, what if 15 and Ruby meet her mother and realise we're the ones who have to make this happen? And that's why she knows what a TARDIS is.
Maybe.
I've just had a thought.
I could see that.
Yeah, no, if you're watching this
I
visual...
literally saw the light bulb just appear above your head.
No, I'm just thinking, so the one who waits, the toy maker would never play against, someone who tricks, someone who cheats. What if the one who what if the one who waits is the trickster? The one person that the toy maker would never play against because he knows he tricks him.
My theory recently about the one who waits was, you know how Shooty said when he was interviewed like ages ago, saying who's the one Doctor Who villain you'd want to face off against? So he says the Beast. What if the one who waits is Satan himself? That'd be cool. Because, I mean, they're bringing in gods and demons and shit like that. What if it is just Satan?
No, I'm going with the trickster now. That's it. I've got that's in my head.
I like
I'm going
it.
with the trickster.
I know it's a bit of a, like, you know, it's a
bit of a leap, don't you? Yeah.
It's a bit of a leap. It's not like a very, like, ingrained theory in my brain. It was like, what if it could be Satan?
Okay, my only thing, and the thing that stands up for me is that one word that changes that sentence, and that's the whole, like I said, have you never seen a TARDIS before?
Yeah.
As opposed to have you never seen the TARDIS before? Which makes me think that she knows more than just the Doctor. She knows more about the whole Time Lord universe type thing. So I feel like she knows more than we think, I feel. Which would be the trickster, to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
I think I agree with Jimmy. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Trickster. Because
where's Sutton?
What better way to trick the Doctor than to give them a best friend?
Exactly.
What do you like? If you remember what the original plan for Sarah Jane Adventures was in Series 5, was that Sky was an element. Sky, the new daughter, was a trickster. Brigade trick Sarah Jane. That was the original plan. So the trickster gave Sarah Jane a daughter to love so he could trick her. So the Doctor finds someone just like him.
And then pairs them up. It would be nice for Russell to introduce a character from Sarah Jane into Doctor Who, because obviously he done it the opposite way around with the Slitheen. So it would be nice to have that.
Plus, you've got to imagine as well, with the element of superstition being invoked, with things being allowed into our physical reality, the trickster's been trying to do that for years.
Yeah, this goes back to the whole Salt and Mafferty thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's exactly the kind of thing the trickster would prey on.
Would the trickster fall under the whole the one who waits thing?
He's always waiting. That's the point, isn't he? He's always waiting.
I've only seen one trickster episode, so I can't really.
No, he's always there. He's always there,
waiting and plotting and
so
manipulating things.
We vote for the trickster. Who do you vote for?
That's what is the X Factor. Who is the one who waits?
Who is Mrs. Blood? You know though, like when it comes to the reveal, we'll just replay this one bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll either be we were right or egg on our face.
See, that's what you don't realise, folks, that the Dripping Hartnell podcast is actually part of the Whoniverse. We were constructed by Russell to spread misinformation.
None of us are real. We're all paid
We're
actors.
a cunning plan.
We're paid actors.
My name is Derek Grantby.
Oh, Christ on a bike.
Indeed. I'm just having a quick look at the Doctor Who wiki for the trickster. I've just typed in wait and seen what comes up. In fact, the word wait is mentioned 3 times in his biography.
Well, there you go then.
He talks about the fact that there are things waiting for the 10th Doctor, like
The gate is waiting for you.
Yeah, that is obviously not relevant to this part. However,
No.
he is, however, references in The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith that he'll always be there waiting for her. And he also says in whatever happened to Sarah Jane Smith, he said he had to wait for just the right moment.
I just keep going back to the fact that it's including the name is the trickster. The toy maker would never play against him because he knows he would cheat.
He cheats.
He tricks. The toy maker would lose his own game.
He would lose, yeah.
And even the toy maker would not cheat at his own game. That's the beauty of it. So
Exactly.
he would never play someone who does.
He's
the toy maker
governed
would never
by
play
the
anyone
rules.
who would never play anyone who would cheat.
He's governed by the rules of play, so he would not play against someone who he knows
would cheat.
Isn't governed by those rules and isn't like who wouldn't just play by the rules of the game.
So obviously we spoke about the fact that this was Suti's first episode and how amazingly brilliant he is. What are our first impressions of Millie?
I like her. I think she's lovely.
I like her. I think that there's still I think you can. Was this the first story that she filmed, or did they film out of order?
No, they filmed episodes 4 and 5 first.
Okay, because I know
that's why when he's wearing that new one, when they announced the costume with the orange top, everyone was like, "Oh, is he only going to wear that for that one scene?" No, 4 and 5.
Because I have seen a few people saying like that they didn't feel like her acting was particularly up to. I'm not saying anything.
I think the thing you need to remember with Millie is she's only 18. Exactly. And she's only ever done soap stuff. So
this is what I mean. It's
green
a new
screen. It's all new to her. You
it's
know,
it's an all new area.
And the other thing is, you don't know how much green screen and physical acting she has to do in the other episodes.
Exactly.
Plus, you've also got to think as well that if they filmed episodes 4 and 5 first, which is halfway through the series, you've then got to suddenly try and backtrack all of that and take away from the character slightly.
Exactly.
They try and go, I can't do that yet because she's too confident. I have to go back. So I think her scenes when she's in the domestic side are really, really good. If there was anything noticeable, I'd say it was reacting to all the alien stuff. But again, you can't exactly be an expert on how you'd react to that stuff anyway.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I was going to say. You know, you got a lot of people sort of saying it that it seems a bit stilted in places, but like I said, it's a whole new genre for her. You know, it's a whole new experience. You don't know really how she's had to react to things, and it's a thing she's never done before. And I look at it and think, like, even if I think in places that her acting was even the tiniest bit off, you look at it and think, like, do you know what? You're new to this, and what I see for the few little bits of her acting that I thought seemed a little bit off, I've seen double, if not triple, the potential for so much better in future. You know, so it's kind of that thing of I think people are allowed their criticisms of things like that. That's fair enough, because it's a new companion. People are going to be on the fence about it and things like that. But I really look at her, her portrayal of Ruby and the way she's done it. And I look at it and think I like the way that you're certainly going ahead with this. And if they really do play into this whole, two schoolgirls nattering, relationship between her and the Doctor, that's perfect, because the one thing that I've constantly wanted over the years, which you've only ever had a couple of times, is for the Doctor and the companion to just be friends. They just want, and I look at it and think, like, that's the immediate vibe I got from them from the moment. There was no hint that Ruby was at some point gonna flirt with him or try to get off with him, or even if there was flirting, it would be a mutual joking friendship flirting. And it's like, I think they're going to be really good as a pairing. I think they really are going to be absolutely fantastic.
We saw an inkling of that as well when they were stood in the doorway arguing whilst Carla saw to her mother.
When they were like, it was like, like they've got on immediately, and you can see that as well when he restores the timeline and rushes back in, and they see one another, and they're just kind of like jumping about on the spot, going, "Oh yeah, what's going on? What's happening?" They're like, "Yeah, I know, it's so cool, isn't it?" Yeah.
I do like the bit when she's like patching it all together. She's like, "What year was Houdini?"
What year? When was Houdini?
Oh, I just remembered something I was going to mention, but forgot to mention.
Oh.
Do you think when Ncuti steps out and looks looks up at what they call the attic or the loft.
Yeah.
Do you think when he says maybe I'm the bad luck?
Mm.
Number one, I like the fact that still some of those insecurities bleed through, even though he's healed, so to speak. I like the fact he's still got that. But number one is, do you think between that scene and Ruby piecing everything together and then running off, I watched it again. I reckon there was a larger conversation had between 15 and
Yeah.
because
It's been
because it was like mid-sentence, and all of a sudden he's just walking into the TARDIS and she's like, see you later, and he's doing like this kind of half smile, like he knows something.
Who she is, potentially.
Yeah, or like, or maybe just a conversation that would become more prevalent later in the series. Like it could be something to do with their connection regarding their origins. It could be something. It could be something larger at play. Obviously, Mrs. Flood has already been referenced already as being something larger in what you might call the metaphorical game. But I don't know. It just seems like I get the whole thing of maybe I'm the bad luck, and then if it cut to Ruby running out and Shooty's gone and he's now in the TARDIS, you could go, yeah, okay, he just said that and walked off solemnly. But the fact that we cut back to him then walking off, then Mrs. Flood saying something, him doing a half smile and leaving, just made me think that something more was said between that, because that means Mrs. Flood never responded to him saying that.
Yeah. And he was clearly waiting in the TARDIS for Ruby. He
That's
knew
what I mean.
that she
He
was
so
coming
doubtful
out.
about. He was saying, maybe I'm the bad luck, going, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Then all of a sudden, he's doing this.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point.
Or do you reckon that'll be a scene we'll see later, or do you reckon it was just cut?
It would be a good callback.
Well, yeah, thinking about how a lot of people describe this as Russell doing some Moffatism things. Would you remember we had that with the Weeping Angel episode and the 11th Doctor appearing and talking to Amy?
Yeah.
I reckon, and because these episodes are shorter as well, and because I love parallels, that scene that happened in Flesh and Stone, 8 episodes later, we found out the relevance of it.
Exactly.
And this series is 8 episodes.
That is true.
You reckon that's not the Doctor's gone off, and that's a different Doctor that's come back in the TARDIS?
He was wearing a different top.
Also, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a terrible, not a terrible. It wouldn't be an unsuspected callback to Rose, because obviously through the expanded media, we later find out when the Doctor leaves Rose and Mickey and then immediately comes back. For him, there's a huge gap of time that's taken. Like he's went off and had loads of adventures on his own before coming back for her. So it would fit into that idea as well. Another nice little Russell T Davies era one callback.
I just love her walking into the TARDIS going, "Who are you?" and just him, hand in his pocket, leaning on the rails, going, "I'm the Doctor." I love it. I love it so much. You are.
My only thing there, and this is a criticism, is if this is supposed to be for a new audience, I feel like there should have been more explaining in that scene.
Of the TARDIS and how it works?
Yeah,
the whole. I know it's cliche, but it's like the whole like it's bigger on the inside. Yes, it is thing. The normal, the thing we always have.
Yeah.
But obviously, a new audience wouldn't have seen the whole. It's bigger on the outside. It's bigger on the inside, sort of outside. It's smaller on the outside.
Bigger on the outside. That'd be really underwhelming.
No, that's Iris Wild Times bus is bigger on the outside, smaller on the inside. So
yeah. But no, I agree with you.
That's a fair point. It's a very good point.
Oh, right. Okay.
It sounds like what they're doing, because I've seen on the BBC iPlayer trailer where they've got where you've seen a lot more scenes of the TARDIS actually flying like immediately after this scene. Shooty's wearing the same costume as is Ruby. I feel like they're going to just have it start immediately after, like Rose and to End of the World. Yeah. But the difference is that halfway through Rose, we had an introduction to the TARDIS, so that when she ran into the TARDIS and it ended, we didn't need to know anything more apart from see the journey. With here, we've never been Ruby's never been introduced to the TARDIS and is now being introduced, and we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling if that happens, the bigger on the inside, it's going to happen in episode 1 of the forthcoming series. I think it might pick up straight after she's entered, and then they do the whole.
I mean,
It
even
will.
if they step outside the TARDIS and then she's like, so why is it bigger on the inside? And then he starts explaining it as they're
Exactly, yeah.
out, you know, I'd be fine with that. But
Yeah.
as an initial thought, I'm like, I feel like the audience need more information.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, that is about all the time that we have for this this festive, in air quotes, edition of the Dripping Hartnell Podcast. I've been your host, Connor J. Sumner. These have been my co-hosts, Abby Louise, Jimmy Wolfe, and Connor
Bye-bye.
Chadwick. And you have been listening to the Dripping Hartnell Podcast. Goodbye!
Bye-bye.
Farewell to you all!
Why can I never find the stop button?